My name is Ruth, and I'm a naturalist working at the Helen Schuler Nature Centre, right here in Lethbridge, Alberta, Canada. I'd like to say a thank you to all of the volunteers that help out at the centre and support protection of wildlife here in the urban parks of Lethbridge. Also, welcome to our viewers who've been here before and to all the new viewers as we walk the nature trails of Lethbridge. Now, this area that I'm sitting in hasn't always been like this. A gigantic glacier once towered over where we are standing, reaching much farther or higher up than the bridge. Then, between 10,000 and 15,000 years ago, the weather started to warm and the continental glacier started to melt. As it melted, it excavated this river valley. As we look across the river, you will see unique shapes in the hills that line the river. We call these formations coulees. The word coulee is derived from a French word, couler, or cool, if you wanted to be Canadian about it, which means to flow. The coulee formations are ever changing because of the force of gravity, the freeze and thaw, the rain or water, and of course our Lethbridge winds. We notice the biggest changes during the spring when we have the most rain. The Old Man River flows down from the Rocky Mountains and meanders across the upland plains, and it continues to cut its path into the valley. This river can easily change its meandering path because the geology or the soils that are here are really soft. They're made up of sandstones and shales, and they're easily moved or displaced as the water force comes along. Look at the ice flow. See how it curves here? Meandering in the path of least resistance. Look, the footprints of a goose, or maybe two. Let's follow them and see what we can find. Yeah, there they are, paired off and standing beneath that tree. They're so still. They look almost like garden ornaments. Oh, sorry. Now, I've got something else to show you as we get over here by the bridge. If you look over there, you will actually see we have a Beaver Lodge. They've built the lodge right behind that bridge post. I wonder if it means there's less strength in the flow of water there. Maybe it was easier to build. Now, beavers stay in their lodge in the winter, and they stay awake. They spend most of their winter cuddled in their lodge or their home with their family. Now, the entrances to the lodge are quite interesting. They are actually deep in the water, so they can exit the lodge and even swim around under this ice for an icy, chilly swim. Actually, you don't have to worry, because beavers have very thick, oiled coats that keep them warm in the cold water. I'm just a little ways away from the river. You can still see the Beaver Lodge in behind me. But I wanted you to have a look at all of these willow bushes around me. So all in this area are some small willow bushes. none of them ever seeming to get much taller. Well, I have an idea why. Because if we look closely at them, any of the branches that have got to be about a centimetre wide or in diameter have been nipped off from the beavers. Here you can see any of the thicker tree branches or stems have been bitten off by the beavers. They sure have been busy around here. As we move away from the river's edge, you might notice that the vegetation is changing. We're up here on the floodplains. The plants here get their water from rain and groundwater, but you might have guessed it from the name the floodplains that indeed in the spring, when the river swells and overflows its banks, it floods up here onto the floodplain, sitting here and soaking into the earth so that the trees and plants in this area benefit from it. We're coming up to an area that shows that the floodwaters in some of the years of great floods got all the way up here into the forest. For if you look behind me, can you see that great pile of logs? Well, those were trees that were knocked down and logs that were floating on the river during a flood. And then as the waters receded back to the riverbed, they got left here, dumped in the forest, or got caught up on trees and left to decompose where they lay. A red-tailed hawk is calling. Can you hear it? We're headed to another formalized trail here in the Lethbridge Nature Reserve. It's called the Oxbow Loop Trail. Maybe before I get there and start talking about oxbows, we should have a closer look at how rivers meander. When a river meanders, it flows back and forth across the plains. Now, the water flowing in the river goes faster on the outside curve. So over time, it continues to cut farther and farther out along the curve. But when there is a great melt up in the mountains and the water from the melting of all the snow comes rushing along, it has greater force than that languid river, and it cuts along right through in the straightest path, leaving those meanders cut off and no longer part of the river's path. The meanders then become what's called an oxbow or an oxbow lake. Let's head down into the Oxbow Loop Trail and we'll notice that I'm going down. You'll see that there's indentations or depressions in the earth here that show the path of ancient rivers. Can you see how we're standing in a depression? When there are more recent floods, these depressions fill up with quite a lot of water. Next time you're out walking in the forest, take note of the changes in the level of the ground and the indentations. Perhaps you'll discover where an ancient river once flowed. Join me next week while we walk another of the trails in Lethbridge. Bye.